Hollywood Times Live. Tonight, reporter Jason Thompson interviews LA art designer Peter Lovello after giving us a 1-minute overview of the 2022 LA Art Show.
Every single day, I'm gonna make something great.
Hi, I'm Jason Thompson for the Hollywood Times. I'm again at the 27th Annual LA Art Show. Take a look.
Something great. That's my way.
To the children and families of St. Jude.
Bring it into this one.
Walking on. Here we go, we got the interview here. Today I'm with the very talented Peter Lovello, who is a costume and production designer for TV, film and theatre. He designs haute couture and special events. Hi Peter, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Oh good. Well, I met you last night at the annual 27th LA Art Show, and I noticed you were matching the pink fuchsia colour used for the VIP lounge at the LA Art Show. Was that right?
That's correct.
That's right. And I actually didn't know who he was from a bar or so. So I just thought, I'm very visual myself, and I thought, do you realise you're matching this set? So I called out to and I said, hey, you are blending with this LA decor, where you then said, I actually designed it. So that was quite a bizarre way of meeting you. So Peter, tell us a bit about the project you have recently done for the LA Art Show, and apparently you also was one of the original conceptualizers of the...
Yes, I was asked to come on board about 25 years ago when it moved from being just a small show to becoming like an exhibit at like a convention where galleries would show their work and buyers would come and see it. But it had a very convention feel with just pipe and drape, and there was no drama, there was no style, there was no interest other than the art on the wall. And the management team found me through a series of people who said, we know this gentleman, he does events, he does design, and maybe he can help you pump up the look of the show so it's more interesting than just pipe and drape and hanging a few pictures. And that was at the Wooten Center at UCLA, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow, so this is 27 years.
Well, they are 27 years, I'm 25 years. Their first show was, my understanding, their first show was at a private home in Pasadena, and the second show was at the Wooten Center, and that's when they were unhappy with the way the decor and everything was, and so they brought me on board that year to see what they were doing so I can help make it better the following year. So for 25 years I've been doing it.
So you've always had a different theme every year?
Every year it changes. It depends on the sponsors. I mean, in the beginning it was LACMA and Dorothy Chandler and the Mark Taper and the Music Center. These were the sponsors of the event, so it had more of that flavor to it. There was a group of ladies who lunched from the from the LACMA Museum who would get together and decide on a theme sometimes, and then several years some of the sponsors changed over to Architectural Digest, so it had more of a feel of how do you display art in your room, so we would create vignettes of rooms and then put art in it. But every year as it grew, it expanded, and I started having a hand in what the theme would become because I would have to put together the theme. So instead of somebody else rattling off a theme that they wanted to see, I would do what I know I could do because I had the resources for this as opposed to that. And So I got to help create more of the look of the show.
So they actually gave you the reins for what theme to do.
Well, theming and coloring and just the general ambiance of the show. So what you would see color-wise, those were all the public spaces, and that would be my domain. Right. I don't curate the show. I don't hang the show. I do not assign the booths. That's all done by management. And right now, the new management is with Cassandra Voyagas, who I believe you met at the show. She curates and she puts the whole show together. She manages it. She may ask my opinion, especially if there's space and they're unsure of what to do with the space. She will ask me to participate, but she will assign me the space. She'll say, here's your VIP lounge, here's your food court, we want to do an open air lounge over here, here's a sponsor who wants to create a lounge of their own, like, as we did with this last show with Asahi, where they came on board and they wanted their own beer lounge as opposed to participating in the main bar.
And that was there last night.
And they were there, yes.
Did you put all the cans on the...
Everything, 700
that looked
cans.
like an installation of art. It looked like an Andy Warhol Asahi.
Okay, so that's funny you say that, because when you're working with not a lot of things, there's not a tremendous budget. You're limited. But one of the things that's very impactful is repetition of design, and the beer cans created an entire wall as a backdrop.
I actually photographed it. I'm going to probably put it in my... I mean, I don't know if you can see up here. During COVID, during COVID, I got my little Campbell soup here. It's my own little sort of feast. But it's also a functional thing too.
Yes.
For those who are listening, I've got all these cans above my... I had a storage issue here, but I thought over COVID, all the craziness, it's extra food. I thought I'll just make it look like an art installation as well.
Like what Andy Warhol done.
Well, there's the Campbell soup up there, and I thought... But
Yes.
it sort of triggered that last night when I saw that, and I didn't know you did that. So there you go, there's another little thing I noticed yesterday. I didn't even know it was you. Second must be exciting though. My mother used to do interior designs for show homes. She had like a big warehouse full of all. And she'd swap things over and change them because they had show homes, display villages all over north, south, east, and west. This is in Australia, in Adelaide. My father's a builder, but saying that, do you have a big warehouse too?
No.
You don't
I no longer live here in LA. When I used to live here, I did have a little bit of supply, but doing costumes, it's clothing. It's not really furnishings. Right. But I have a lot of friends in the business. In the beginning, because of doing movies, I worked with a company called Green Set, so we would sometimes rent trees and shrubs and hedges and create a forest inside the Barker hangar, because we would get a deal because I knew the people there and have used them in other movies. The same thing, I have an incredible artist, Edgar. His name, he goes under the name EIO, and he does the windows out of the closet, and he helps me a lot.
I know that guy. He's brilliant.
He's the most talented young man I've ever met outside of myself.
And undervalued, I think.
Totally. Even though the company has finally recognized him and moved him now to do windows at their other locations, his windows in West Hollywood have blown me away for the last 30 years.
It blows me away too.
I just think he's brilliant, and unfortunately he's not represented by a gallery, which is every gallery's mistake. He should be gallery represented, but any way I could get him involved in the show, I did. So several times, once at the Barker hangar, we had large displays for the entrance. They weren't gallery spaces, they were entrances to come in, and I had him create an all-white entrance for both sides. Several years, he's also brilliant at creating wearable art, clothing that you wear. So he would bring his artists in he would bring his models in the clothing that he designed. So one year, as a benefit to St. Jude, who's one of our sponsors, we displayed his pieces as art, but in their community booth that they do. It wasn't part of a gallery or anything, but it created the look of what we were doing for the day. His work is brilliant, and he would assist me sometimes where there was a piece of furniture out of the closet or something that he can give me a little bit of a break on, or the owners would give me a little bit of a break on. And 99% of the time, if we don't do anything to the piece, like if we don't spray paint it or anything, we just give it right back. So we'll take it as a little bit of a rental. Oh, it's a $50 piece. He's giving it to me for $25. We're not using it anymore. You get it back.
Wow, that's
so
great.
yeah, so it's nice to know people, and like I said, having done this for so long, I have a lot of resources, but not the kind of resources where nobody's going to give me a suite of Mitchell Gold furniture to put in a lounge.
Right, yeah.
So,
But you hire the rest of the furniture stuff.
we
right?
do. We
Like,
rent,
or a rental
and
company,
we have
whatever.
several rental companies that we thoroughly respect and use year after year. There's one that we work with through St. Jude, which is called Signature. And while it's your traditional convention furniture, it's not. There's nothing. It's clean, it's serviceable, but there's nothing. There's very few pieces that are spectacular. So you're not going to create an eye-popping room, but you're going to create an interesting room. And my goal is always like, let's make the room not be the center of tension. Let's make the art that's in the room or the people that are coming into the room. So as long as it's a beautifully clean sofa or chair, it doesn't matter to me that it's not a Louis the 14th piece or a Stickley or something. Yeah, I don't want the rooms to be the showpiece. They just need to be the backdrop for everybody else.
Yeah.
And these companies, Regal Rents or like I said, Signature or any of that, they're brilliant. They're always there. They last minute, there's a panic, something happened. Oh my God, now we need more furniture, and they'll be right there that hour with.
That's what you need.
Yes.
The events industry is not an easy industry to be in. It's very demanding. Because there's so many, especially when the creative people are involved.
Yes, because it's very difficult. I mean, every once in a while they'll give me a little bit more money to do something spectacular. Last year we did a food court where we hung 6-foot chandeliers that were like hotel lobby chandeliers. Wow. But they were so high up in the air that they looked like tiny little like bedroom chandeliers, and yet they were, it was a rental, and it worked, but it wasn't as impactful as you wanted it to be because they were too small. Even though they were 6 feet, they were too small. So this year, Cassandra allowed us to create our own. So with a little spit and some glue and some paper and paint, we created 9 chandeliers, which you saw, 4 massively large 8-foot by 6-foot in diameter chandeliers. And once they were painted and texturized, people thought they were vinyl, people thought they were leather, people thought they were hammered metal, but it was just cardboard. And so we were able to do a brilliant setup of lighting and not cost the event a fortune.
You started doing all this creative visual stuff when you were 14, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, I designed my first stage show, both production design and costumes, at 14.
Wow. So have you always been a very arty-farty visual person?
There are 5 of us in our family, and all 5 of us have gotten one exclusive talent that was enough for 5 people. Like, I have a younger sister, she's an athlete, she had a scholarship to college. They make fun of me when I joined the softball team. Her inspiration for me was go to the batting cages and practice hitting the ball. And I thought she was giving me a tip, but she said, you run so slow, you need to hit the ball out of the park so you can get around the bases. My brother could take apart a car and put it back together in an hour. Wow. And I got my license 9 days before I turned 25. So everybody had a little bit of talent in their own sphere that they were excellent at, and I got the creativity, or at least I think I got the creativity. My middle sister is extremely creative, but in a homey, more down to earth, it's not cerebral for her. It just comes natural. It's like she's very earthy, and
it's more interior design, like my mother would probably.
Yes, exactly. So she, and she's business oriented. My oldest sister is brilliant with numbers, absolutely brilliant. I mean, I remember her in high school having clients where she did their books. And I'm like, what high school child things to start a business where you're doing books for other businesses. I mean, I was not enough. Once math started introducing letters into the equation, like algebra, I was done. When
I hear you, brother. It's like I wasn't very good at maths.
No.
X plus Y equals shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it was bad enough there were numbers, but now you're throwing letters in too. It's like,
I was horrible at math. I failed, but I got A's for art.
See?
I was, I'm a performing artist, but I'm also a visual artist too. I'll do that when I get older. But my mother was a hairdresser and an interior designer. My father was the builder, I've just naturally been visual too. But I hear what you're saying with the maths. I was just like, I think people like us, we see things, we're very visual. We're the maths sort of people that look at.
Very analytical. It's very
they'll dissect
analytical.
your display with a formula, with maths, and you'll go, I'm not interested in that.
Exactly.
You can do all that and tell me the science of why I made that, and put it into mathematical formula, but it doesn't interest us. We'll see it all just visually, where they can't see it that way, which is a blessing. I think I love being visual too. Now you into haute couture clothing as well, so...
I did. I've worked with some of the most amazing couture designers. When I first moved to LA, there was a group, I believe it's still here, but it's called APLA, H Project Los Angeles, and every year they would bring a different designer to do a fashion show. And I was very fortunate to know a local designer who got me involved, as well as another costume designer. And so the very first year I participated was with Gianni Versace. And prior to that, there was 1 year prior to that where they just asked local designers to recreate famous Hollywood gowns or costumes, recognizable costumes, like the Spectator outfit Betty Davis comes out of the boat on Now Voyager, or Scarlett's red dress from Gone with the Wind. So they had locals doing that, but then the following year Gianni Versace stepped up and put on a fashion show, and then it was Terry Mugler, and then it was Isaac Mizrahi, and so every year I got to work with all these amazing designers and do alterations, fittings, alterations. I remember though with Versace, because I spoke Italian, I got to be the liaison between the APLA seamstresses and the Italian seamstresses, and okay, you can do this here, you do this, oh, you do this, give all your fire, you go over here, you do this. And it was, to me, it was just amazing, but you contain it all inside of you, and then the excitement doesn't come out until it's all over, when you realize, oh my God, I just helped Gianni Versace put on a fashion show where there was $1.5 million worth of models on the runway for the closing moment. Every top designer in the world, every top model in the world was on the stage. Wow. Brian Buzzini, Claudia Schiffer, Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Tatiana. They were right there. They were all, Linda Evangelista, they were just right, here, stand still, I'm pinning this. It's just amazing. And then he also had a lot of celebrity clients come to the event wearing clothes. That's how I met Liz Taylor. That's how I met... they're going to not be in the fashion show, but they're going to wear something Versace to the event and have it altered and repaired. And
Were you sort of traditionally trained in fashion?
No, I learned how to sew approximately when I was 5 years old. My grandmother gave me a needle and thread, and she taught me how to do a little satin stitch. We used to go to my grandparents a lot. It's a very Italian thing back east. And she would show me how to sew little things, and then she would help me when I was doing a pattern, because I didn't like to cut a pattern through measurement of... Again, math. I would prefer to drape a pattern, so I would create my own. She would assist me and do stuff, and every time
you actually sew a whole dress up?
Yes, absolutely. No. I could do it on machine. I could do it by hand. I've done hundreds of dresses. I did my sister's wedding.
I sense that you were a natural. I didn't think that you went to, because sometimes that, when you're actually self-taught. Who taught the teachers to begin with? Someone has to know.
Eventually, there was somebody who had to do it on their own.
Who taught them, or the teachers? Or who taught them? Someone has to have it. You have to have it to
start somewhere.
I know, but it's nothing wrong with going to get schooling and stuff. But some people, some people go into these industries and then they haven't got the natural talent. You can get all the schooling you want. Yes. You still don't have that edge.
Well, see, that's what I've always believed, and that's what when I lecture, I took a course one time for a friend of mine who was teaching at FITM, and I finished the course for him. He had other commitments, and then I also was asked back to lecture because I do costumes for film, I do costumes for TV, I do costumes for theater, and those three divisions are completely different. A costume that would work on stage might not work on film because of the fabrications or the color or whatever. So it was weird because they would say, oh, I'm a designer, but I can teach you the fundamentals of making the costume, and I can teach you the reasons why. But if you don't innately have the vision in your head, you're technically not a designer. You're just a stylist. Exactly. And that's what ends up happening where nowadays a lot of students come out of school, or even non-students, people who just feel they're creative, they go, I'm a designer. And it's like, but are you really? Because can you conceive a concept? Can you sketch it to be approved by somebody who can't conceive it? And then can you build it? You know, you could be a great sketch artist, but that makes you a sketch artist. You can be a great seamstress, but that makes you a seamstress. It doesn't truly make, but can you take all these different elements and combine them all together, and then you're a designer. You've chosen the fabric, you've chosen the color, you've chosen the style, you make it work for your client. You know, you do all these things, and you're truly a designer. I watch sometimes Project Runway, and I say, yeah, they're not really a designer. They have one look that they can do over and over again. Or, oh, he sketches really amazing, but none of his clothes look like his sketches. Or, you know, this person sketches brilliantly. They have a wonderful concept, but they have no technical skill, so everything looks hardly put together. And I don't think that's fair to the contestants, because some people sewed for 30 years and they have all the training in the world, and you're coming out of school with no sewing experience, but you're a designer, you're sketching, you're conceiving, and it looks beautiful, but you can't bring it to life.
Wow, that's very interesting.
That's how I feel. That's my opinion. That's no other designer's opinion.
Well, the people that are generally very original, you know, they are unschooled, you know, through the system, and because sometimes that can contaminate your thinking and your belief systems about how things should be.
Well, that's another thing. You know, there are teachers and professors who tell them, oh, that's a horrible design. Even the judges on Project Runway, oh, that's a horrible design. No design is horrible because somebody else will like it.
Exactly.
So for every two guys you say this is bad, I can get you two people who are going to say, oh my God, this is brilliant. So I think it does a disservice to a creative young person or even a creative old person to say this is a horrible design. It's like, it's not a horrible design.
Them because instead of encouraging them,
yes,
and I mean, like your out of the closet guy, I forget how to pronounce his name. What's it?
His real name is Edgar, but he calls himself EO. E-I-O.
EO, that's right, EO. I mean, to me, I look at him. He'll make a dress out of spoons.
Those the angel wings out of the plastic forks where they look like real forks, but they weigh nothing. And I'm like, But
that's, to me, I mean, you could say we've only got $100 to spend, and he'll create something that will look like, you know.
Absolutely.
And that's when you'll get the idea of, I've only got $100. Maybe I'll use these plastic spoons.
or he does newspaper dresses, or he does. I mean, one of my very first projects when I moved to LA had been the windows for Fred Heyman, Beverly Hills, who used to be Giorgio, and he had a sale going on. So from a project I did even 15 years before I moved here, I took all this tissue paper and his paper bags and his ribbons, and I created gowns on the mannequins because I wasn't going to put an outfit on there that was going to get sold 10 minutes later, but I would create all these evening wear pieces that said sale, so that the mannequins were still dressed, but we didn't have to worry about the merchandise coming on and off the mannequin.
Brilliant.
So, you work with what you have.
Windows are great to get people's attention, it is an art, and I just love that guy. I'm so glad to hear what you're saying about him, because I'm surprised he hasn't dressed some big star on the Oscars or something.
If I had the ability, if I had the contacts, if I had the resources, I would actually be his, I don't know what you call it, mentor. I would be the person that would fund this boy's career, because he's, as far as I'm concerned, he's probably one of the most brilliant and talented people I have ever met.
I know. I just love looking at his windows. And
yes.
I'm this guy, this is just, this should be on something in New York or on something.
Yes, I think if Simon at Barney's was still around to do this stuff, that he would have snatched this boy up.
And he started off just working at it.
Yeah, he just worked in the store. He was just doing,
Love that.
cleaning up, doing displays and stuff, and then the one store let him do their windows because you can't really put their. It's a thrift store. You can't put their merchandise in the window. Their process is to sell it. So he would just do creative windows.
Well,
and
I think that's one of their sales little draw cards for the out of the closet because everybody can't wait to see those.
Right. Every time I'm in LA, I check out what the windows are. Sometimes he'll very graciously send me photos because I don't get back here often enough. But he'll have changed the window and he'll be like, "Look what I'm like."
It's
just beautiful.
I've sent them actually to friends, and I have friends who live in Cannes. You know, she's Naomi Goodsir. She's a milliner and a hat maker, and got her own cologne. She's an Aussie as well. But I always send them to her. I said, "Look at this guy. She just loves him as well." But I just think it's a matter of time for that guy to be, and I'm
scooped
glad
up.
And you're actually scooping him up a bit in your own way.
I wish I seriously I do as much as I can for him because I think he's just brilliant. But I wish I could do more. Like if I won the lotto, the first thing I would do is say, "What do you want, Edgar? What do you want? I'll get it for you. Whatever you need."
Stuff and take him to another level. Well, that's probably you were saying before that you're teaching and lecturing. So as we get older, it's nice to pass on that knowledge and encouragement. Yes. I'm glad you're saying that about, when young ones want to come out with something that might look totally bizarre, rather than squashing.
Yeah.
Because you don't want the same old boring beige and bland,
exactly.
In the little confounds of what they've been taught at school. They come out like a sausage factory.
And the judges talk out of both sides of their mouths because they'll be like, "This is a horrible design, this is terrible colors, but I love what you did over," and it's like, you can't do that. It's like, don't grade them on the technical skill if they have no technical skill. Like, don't let the technical skill because look at Dior. Dior would take a pencil and draw a line like this and draw a line like this, and then they would make a ball gown for him, and it was like, wait a minute, how did you possibly, get that accomplished?
Yep, we're just checking it's still going because wouldn't it be horrible? We're raining on all this great stuff. Sorry, for those who are listening, or Tom who's listening, we were just checking to see if the recording was still going. And it was 5:55 on the clock. That was like,
no, that's very nice. Wasn't that nice?
What does 5:55 mean? We have to work that out. One other question I like to ask people is, especially when you're an artist, is what motivates you and inspires you to do what you do?
Well, at my age now, what motivates me and inspires me is the project itself, the joy of the project, the reason for the project, and the people working with me. If it's going to be a difficult project, if there's going to be a lot of strife, if there's going to be a lot of drama, I'm not interested. I don't care how good it is. But I've had shows where a specific actress will ask me back, or an actor, to do the show for them because I've worked with them, we collaborated, and we work well together, or a director or a producer. So I will do it maybe for that reason. I've only rarely done it for the project itself without knowing anybody. Like, I haven't stepped cold turkey into a project and go, I feel very passionate about this, I want to do this. But for the most part, as long as it's challenging me in a creative way without taxing me, physically and emotionally about, well, you have to work 16-hour days. It's like, I'm not interested in that project.
Well, you were probably at a stage in your life where you can pick and choose stuff you don't want.
Well, I'm hoping that I'm at that stage, but it's getting more difficult to pick and choose because, again, a slew of newbies are coming out at 18, 19, 20 years old calling themselves designers. And I can tell you there have been several films where I was being considered for the costume designer's position and a newbie stepped out and said, I'm a designer, and they were only charging $10,000 because they're hungry and they're young and they want it. But then they screwed up and they came back to me and they're like, can you come back and fix this? And I'm like, for twice what I originally offered, I can, but if you want me to fix somebody else's mistake,
did they?
One film did. They had no choice. But it was one of those things where it's like you take me because I have the talent and this is what I'm worth.
And
but
experience.
Experience,
years
talent.
And years you can't.
But
you can't buy
but if
that.
you're hiring them because you think you're going to save a buck and then they mess up and you want me to fix it, that's even more time and energy, and that means more money. So
Well, that's why you can't buy experience, can you?
No.
And wisdom comes from experience.
Yes.
And as we get older, you can see right through that. The young ones all like, they're all enthusiastic and prepared to work for
well,
nothing.
and they have, and because they have to start somewhere. I don't begrudge them that, because every once in a while you will get a talented person who can do it, and they're starting out. So it's like, yes, I don't need the money right now, but $10,000 to them is like a fortune.
I know.
So they're like, I will do this for $10,000, and they'll undercut you because you said 30,000. So yeah, I mean, just
And they
pulling
want the
randomers.
experience. They want the resume.
They want, yes, and they need the
But at our
resume
age, when
builder.
someone says it'll be good for your
Yes,
it'll
yes.
be good for your resume. We don't need that.
But I do always tell, whatever I'm lecturing or teaching, I always tell them, no matter what the project is, get paid something. Don't ever do it for whatever somebody says. It's for the experience. It's for your book.
Never,
It's for your
never.
thing. It's one of those things where it's like, no, your talent and your time is worth something. Even if it's a stipend, even if they're just going to give you $500, you need to do it for some amount of money, because once you do it for free, they will not respect you at all, regardless of what they say. They won't respect you.
There's always got to be an exchange of energy.
Yes.
And I'm in the events industry. I've been both behind and I'm on stage, but so many people that want things for nothing, want things for cheap, but then they don't realise they really don't have the understanding of the quality, and that's why they come back. It's turned to custard. Can you help us now? Like, well, you should have come to the quality first, rather than, you want to save money and you get,
Now we have to fix it.
Yeah, and it's cost you a lot more money in the long run. It's best to get people that are, are talented and know what they're really doing. Now, you recently moved from Madison to Griffin, is it right?
Griffin, Georgia, yes.
Georgia.
Georgia.
You used to live in
Georgia.
You used to live in Los Angeles for many
I
years,
did.
as you said, and now, why did you leave LA and move over to?
Well, it's they're all. This is not any. There's no work-related reason. There's no talent creative reason. I had lived here in LA, as a matter of fact, directly across the street from you. And
yes,
then
I know that.
and then the partner that I was with and I broke up, and I met someone else who lived in Florida. So because of what I do for a living, I could live anywhere. So I moved to Florida to be with him. And then after 26 years with the company he was working for, he retired, but still wanted to work. He felt that he still had more time to work, that he wanted to work, and he found a job in Wisconsin. And so we moved to Wisconsin because, again, I can do my job anywhere in the world. Right. So I moved with them. There, you fly anywhere you need to be.
It's nice that you're friends with your ex still. I'm friends with my ex too.
I
crashed with my ex in Sydney too.
See, I'm dumbfounded. Well, I mean, I'm just dumbfounded by the fact that people break up and then there's this drama about hating and never talking. But as it was explained to me by people who were in the know, when somebody breaks up that way and there's hatred, it's not because it's still a love thing. Like, hate and love are the same side of the coin. Yeah. The opposite of love is indifference. So if you no longer love this person, you can care less. But if you still hate them, there's still emotion attached to that relationship. So that's the way it was explained to me. And I'm like, I don't hate him. We were together for an exorbitantly long amount of time. At the time, it was more than half of my growing life was with him. But we're no longer compatible. I love him, but I'm not in love with him.
So he becomes more like a brother.
Well, just a very good friend. I mean, believe me, I trust him more with some of my, with finances or with whatever than I would with, family members, because there was just an understanding between us. And then I met someone new in Florida who has become, the person in my life, but then he moved to Wisconsin for work, so I followed along and moved to Wisconsin for work. And then COVID hit.
And you're still happily together?
Yes, and then COVID hit, and it was one of those weird things where it's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to continue to work from home? Do you want to continue to work at all? Do you want to officially retire for good? And it was actually his mother who put the little seed in his head, because she's like, your father retired 5 years ago. from what you are now. You know, he retired fairly young, so he started looking at the finances, and he thought, yes, I want to retire, but we didn't want to retire in Wisconsin because he wanted a state that was doesn't charge tax on Social Security. He wanted a state that had a better seasonal. He loves gardening, so he wanted.
Georgia, is it?
Well, Georgia has almost 4 seasons. The winter is very short, but they have almost 4 seasons. You can plant and grow beautiful gardens of abundant flowers. I mean, we could have moved to Arizona, but it would have been all cactus. You know, you weren't going to get rose bushes and, you know, maple trees.
What about Palm Springs? Do you think about that?
Well, he didn't like California because you get charged tax on your Social Security, and when the government gives you so little Social Security every month, you don't want them taking back more of it.
I didn't know that. That's interesting to know.
So we looked at all the states. We eliminated after we looked at. I mean, because there were Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, and some of the most exquisite architecture in the world we found at these states. We found a Tudor house in Mississippi with a tennis court and a swimming pool and carved. It was like $300,000 on with carved beams in the ceiling and stained glass windows. But it was Mississippi, and it was in a particular. And I'm like, do you want to live in this town? It's racist. It's there's all there's crime. There's all this.
Who cares if you got a bigger house?
Yes.
A bigger tennis court.
Yes.
You can't have any friends come around there.
Yeah, nobody wanted. But this community that we found in Griffin, Georgia, it's such a diverse community. I mean, it literally does not feel like we're in the South.
And there's a good gay community there?
There's an active gay community. Most of it, of course, is in Atlanta, but Atlanta is only 40 minutes away.
Right.
And so what we've heard is that they're starting to fan out to the suburbs to afford housing because it's only a 40-minute drive in, exactly. As opposed to
Is there a train going out there?
I believe there are some trains. I'm not sure if they're commuter, but I believe there are some rapid transit ways.
There are a lot of cities in America.
Yes.
And I was in Chicago doing a gig recently, but it was this little town. It was like the train took it out like for 45 minutes or 40 minutes, and it was like, zoop, you're there.
You're there. And
St. Charles,
yes.
Where I was,
nice.
Which was, I just did a gig there I was the Queen of England at this Scottish restaurant. Isn't it enough there? It was fun if they had a charity event. But anyway, I noticed that. I thought, God, this is doable. You could sort of live, as long as there's a train line somewhere, you can just...
But even just with the car, it's all back roads. There's no traffic.
Right,
we're at the Atlanta airport in 30 minutes. And then the heart of Atlanta, 45. And as long as you're not doing it during rush hour in Atlanta, it's a great little drive.
And for you, there's a lot of filmmaking in Atlanta, right?
Tyler Perry has a studio there. Trilith is there. They do all of the Marvel comic stuff. I just met 2 wonderful, one's a costume designer and one's a production designer, other guys through a mutual friend in Ireland who came for the holidays, and he introduced me to these people. So yeah, there is work. The community I live in, Griffin, they filmed 4 seasons of Rectify, the TV series there. They do a lot of Living Dead or Walking Dead or whatever the dead thing is that everybody's doing with mummies and zombies and stuff.
Those things.
Yeah, but so they do a lot of that filming there. And like I said, though, we're not the only gays in the village. There are other couples there, and there are other single gays there. But people came to your door, rang your doorbell, and introduced themselves. We're the new neighbors. We wanted to say hi.
Did they make you a cake?
We had one young lady brought us muffins. Another people bought chocolate.
And they knew you were a gay couple too.
They knew right away.
So excited we got a gay couple.
But they're like, there's another gay couple down the street. You should meet them, and they're
probably have a little street party.
They do because
progressive dinner party.
They have it's a small homeowners association. It's not like for one of these condo buildings. It's minimal. I think it's like $100 a year to join. But they do things like they just had a little Christmas parade. Everybody got on their little golf carts and did a little parade, and then they had Santa Claus, so the kids could
Guess who's going to be involved in that when you get
no,
older?
no. But they did have a.
You'll
They
probably
did
be on the committee.
They did have a house decorating commission contest for Christmas, and again for Halloween they do a. But our house is situated up on a slight hill, and a lot of people did not want to come up the driveway for Halloween because it's a little. But the ones that did, the brave ones that did, I mean,
You scared them off.
well, it was Halloween. I was dressed
Never come back
as
here.
I was dressed as Death. They all got their own little.
Candy's not good for you anyway.
It was fun. It was fun. Halloween to me is the capital holiday. It's costumes. It's fun. It's exciting.
Well, I'm sure you'll be famous in that street. How long have you been there?
We moved in June, so it's only been about 6 months.
Oh, well, you'll probably be all famous there before you know it.
I think I'm already
That gay
famous.
couple, that guy is very famous. He's made all movies. Speaking of fame, you work with people. I looked on your Instagram and I've seen you with photographs with people like Betty White. God bless her. She recently passed away.
Yes.
What an icon.
I worked on a TV series that Betty was on for 2 seasons.
Really?
Yes.
She must have been adorable to work with.
Betty was. The first day I met her, I made the mistake of calling her Miss White when they introduced me, and I told her and she goes, "Don't ever call me Miss White. That means I don't like you. Call me Betty."
Oh.
And the next day, I know, but then the next day she said to me, "Hello, Peter," and I'm like, Betty White remembered my name 24 hours later, and I've worked with actresses and on sets where they don't remember you the next day, they don't remember you 2 years later. You could pass them in the street, they'll have no idea who you are.
That's why she's a star.
Because
it's not just about...
She was a diamond star, the highest caliber.
But that's what makes people... years ago, we have a Betty White equivalent, but he's a guy in Australia called Bert Newton. He's just like that. He hosted shows. He's a very funny comedian, and he gave me a break on his show. And he always told me it's all about people, remembering people's names. Like I actually wrote to him. I sort of saw what he was going through, and I was almost like the Joseph story, and I interpreted something that I saw and was in alignment with him. He responded, and apparently he responds to all letters. And he got me on the show because I actually wrote a letter to him and got on the show because he was one of these and he's taught me that. And in the industry, it's all about remembering people's names. The lighting guy, the sound people, anybody.
Well, that was old Hollywood, and any of the old actors and actresses, that was part of their training. You had to remember those people because those are the people who made you who you were.
Exactly.
And Liz Taylor was the same way. Once she knew your name, she would see you and call you out by name. And it's such a shocking feeling to. I don't want this to sound degrading to any of us, but it's like to the common people to have a celebrity recognize you in public or in a public setting because you're just like, oh my God, Betty White knows my name. Oh my God, Liz Taylor knows my name.
Well, they make an effort to do it because they know that, you're just as important.
Yes.
And they realize that you're doing the costumes or whatever, but they see that you're just as important as them. No one's better than anybody else, but people get more recognized, obviously, like Betty White, because she's been going for years and years, and because she's successful, because she's like old Hollywood. And that's how this guy is in Australia, and I learned a lot from him too, and that's why I've always been successful. It's all about people too. Even my agents, I don't just go straight in with an email and say, "Oh, what's happening with this job?" I say, "Hi Peter, how are you going? I hope you had a great letter." Anyway, about that job, you know what I mean? I don't just go straight into the goal.
It's a personal part.
It's all about people. And I'm like, that's taught me that. And, a lot of people always say to me that, I'm nice to work with, and that's what gets you success. It's not just being the talent. That's a given that you're going to have the talent. But, you've got
people
to
want to work with you because you're friendly. You have fun. And
their life is fun too because it's all, they want it to be fun, not some prima donna guy that is all screaming and, wanting everything and blah, blah, blah. You've also had, moving on, you've had Brooke Shields.
For a long time, Brooke created her own line of clothing when I worked for Saks Fifth Avenue and we launched it. And back then, in the 70s and the 80s, I used to do painted sweatshirts. So I did a portrait of her, and her tag was a flannel shirt and her hair blowing. So I actually cut out some flannel and stitched it on the shirt. And so I did a replica of her tag, and so she signed the shirt for me.
Oh, that's great.
And then she actually was supposed to be in a film that I was doing. She was going to do a cameo, but she never got to do it. And there were like, it was one of those like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon thing where, oh, I'm working on this film and Brooke's going to be in it, and then for some reason she dropped out or I dropped out, or, oh, Brooks is doing this showing, she's going to be at this location, and then I couldn't get there, or it was always one of those things where I could never, because I still carry the picture on my Instagram, so in case I ever see her again, and of course that's when I was young, thin, and pretty, but...
Well, you still look pretty.
Thank you.
Peter. Well, there's a couple of like Florence Henderson, the Brady Bunch.
Oh, I did a charity event for it's one of only 2 that I had done here, but it was just chock-a-block filled with tons of them. And there's Florence Henderson in a scene that they were doing. They had the other kids with like big foam heads that the actors were carrying around to be the other kids, but Florence was, and they had her in leather. They had her in a harness and a corset, and something had to be repaired. And I'm on my knees fixing this, and I'm shaking like a leaf. And she was probably in her 70s at this point. And she goes, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, all my childhood fantasies are crashing around me. I'm on my knees in front of Florence Henderson, and she's dressed like a dominatrix."
Oh my God.
But it was hysterical. I mean,
there's a story.
Yes.
Oh my God.
but that whole event was a charity event, and there was just celebrity after celebrity after celebrity after celebrity, and just normal people hanging out. Angela Lansbury was just sitting in a chair by herself, and I'm like, Angela Lansbury. I'm like, this is Angela Lansbury. She's like a goddess. So I went up to her and I said, my grandmother told me this a long time ago. She said, if you ever meet her, tell her how much we enjoyed her series and how we would watch it together.
Murder, She Wrote.
Murder, She Wrote. And she goes, and then get the hell out of there, because every time she shows up, somebody dies. And I told her, and she got a huge kick out of it. And because her husband's name was Peter, she felt like there was like an immediate, oh, your name is Peter too. My husband's name is Peter. So we but I told her that. I said, my grandmother told me I have to leave now because she doesn't want me to the one.
One of the lights fall on you or something. And also, you're going from one spectrum to the other. There was Kenny Rogers. Like, how butch is that?
Well, Kenny Rogers did a video. I costumed a video for Coolio, and Kenny Rogers did part of the video. It was Coolio had done a Western song or Western theme song about the gambler, and it was an all-black cast with the exception of Kenny. And Coolio played not only himself, but he had done prosthetic makeup to be an old man, so they were all playing cards. So he was playing cards with himself and Kenny as the gambler. So I got to work with Kenny Rogers. I got to work with Coolio. That was a fun little video. I have never seen the final product, but it was great for me because it was all turn of the century 1800 Western wear. So it was nice. Well, turn of the century at that time, because now it's 2 turns of the century ago.
What was he like? Was he a nice guy?
Kenny, he was just very sweet. I mean, again, it wasn't one of those things where you spend hours chatting with them. It's fit you. He actually brought all his own clothes because he is the gambler, so he had all his own stuff. But it was just like, do you need anything steamed? Do you need anything prepared? It was a pleasure meeting you. Enjoy your scene,
Right.
Yeah.
I got one last one here.
Sure.
Carol Channing.
I could tell you personal stories about Carol Channing, but you're never supposed to speak anything about the dead. But Carol Channing, well, because Carol Channing was truly was a national treasure, and
like Betty White,
but in a different way.
The 3 of them together,
but in a different way, because Carol Channing was just as dingy in real life as she portrayed herself to be. And I wish at the time we could have still had. I mean, she left a message on our answering machine back when it was those little tiny cassettes, and I would listen to.
Now you're saying your age.
Well, I know, but
I had those as well.
I know, but it was one of those things like even John Rubinstein had called and left a message. And I have the kind of wacky friends that would do something stupid like that. Peter, it's Steven Spielberg. I got a movie I want you to do. But it would be my friend. So, this is John Rubinstein. Yeah, John Rubinstein's going to call me.
Whatever
Pippin's
it
going to
was, it really wasn't.
And it was.
It was.
That's how I got to work with John. It really was him.
It was one of your mates.
And the same thing with Carol Channing. And I was like, Peter, it's Carol. I'm like, oh my God.
But it really was her.
And it was, yeah. Well, she was doing it. She and Angela were we were doing a benefit for Jerry Herman. And Angela was Mame on Broadway and Carol was Dolly. So, but what they ended up doing, which was very clever, there are two main songs, the Mame song and the Hello Dolly song. Jerry merged. What do they call that when you do two different songs and you make them together?
A melody?
Oh, no. Like what that girl does on those musical, where I forgot the term for it. But, but Angela comes out first. And she says, I've always wanted to do this. And she starts singing the Hello Dolly song. And Angela's backstage and she's like, somebody's singing my song. And she comes out.
I think I've seen that picture.
And so Angela says...
It's on film somewhere.
I'm not sure about the film part of it, but it was a stage production. And they may have done it again.
I think they did it on one of the...
It could have been.
Or something.
It could have been. And so Carol was like, that's okay because I've always wanted to do this. And she starts doing Mame. But the comedy aspect of it was when Mame came out, the Mame dancers came out. They're in those riding outfits. And when Carol came out, the Dolly dancers come out and they're the waiters. So when Angela started singing Carol's song, the waiters came out thinking to see Carol and they got Angela. Then Carol started singing Angela's song, it was very funny. And they merged the songs together. And then at the end, the piano came up out of the stage, and it was Jerry playing, and it was the finale of the show, and it was just brilliant, It was the conception was brilliant, the show itself was brilliant, but the irony was, Carol, bless her soul, at rehearsal fell down 2 stairs. There's a ramp with 2 stairs. And so she ended up breaking her arm and damaging part of her face. Too. Oh, I know. But the show went on, and we had borrowed jewelry from Harry Winston, and there was a suite of rubies for Angela to wear and a suite of diamonds for Carol to wear. And it was like... Carol had a cast, so I had to cut the Bob Mackie sleeve off. I actually had to pick it off because it was got to be sewn back on. But I cut off the sleeve so she can get her cast on. And then we sewed all the diamonds to the cast so that she would look like she had something on. She was a hoot.
No one knew that she had a...
They knew. They knew because it was a big to-do because she had the bandage and yeah. But it was...
people love the fact that you just
whipped it all together. And then
some diamonds on the cast.
Poor
You'll
Carol.
be fine.
Yeah, we're gonna cover the cast with diamonds. Don't worry. But she was so funny because at some point, because they were all Harry Winston, every actress that was wearing something had a personal guard with the Harry Winston, and you weren't allowed to put it on until you were getting ready to go on stage. So you would wait in the wings with the guard, and one of the dressers would put the ornamentation on you. You do your number, and then you come off, and they take it off and give it back to the guard. Well, because we had to sew it on her thing, she had to get it done early, and she wanted to go to the bathroom, and the guard wanted to go in the bathroom with her, and from down the hall you hear her going, I have to go to the bathroom.
Do they really think she's going to steal
That's
something?
what I said. Well, I said that to the guard. I said, first, this is Carol Channing. You know what it is,
not
right?
Like some dodgy...
Yeah. But it was still his job, and I get that. So I said...
So did she actually go to the cubicle on her own?
Well, yeah. So what we ended up doing...
How far did he go with it?
Well, we let the guard go in, make sure nobody else was in there. And then he stood outside the door while she was in there.
That was ridiculous because she could have swallowed them. She could have put them up.
Well, but he, that was their job. He looked at it, make sure everything was there. She went in, she did her thing, came back out. But she came up to me afterwards and she goes, "What the hell was that all about?" I'm like, "I'm sorry."
Because if they're really going to steal something, you'd steal it, wouldn't you?
Oh,
I mean, she could hide it up anywhere.
That would have been an easy spot to do because that was another issue. I had to actually have a little conversation with her because she's dancing with 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old dancer boys. They're doing their thing, and every time she raised her arm, and one of the boys came up to me and they said, "Miss Channing's not wearing any underwear."
Oh, no.
So I had to go up to her and I'm like, "Carol."
Did she realize?
Oh, yeah, she knew that she didn't. She knew. I said, "Carol, these boys are really, really young."
And you've traumatized them.
Do you think? And she goes, I'll do it tomorrow. It was hysterical. But as I said, you don't want to talk dirty about or anything bad about him. But
No.
I mean, but she was just so funny. I mean, you could never tell if she did it purposely or not.
Well, maybe she.
But it was so
she
funny.
Didn't realize she probably then made an excuse.
No.
Oh, of course I knew. I forgot. No, she probably
No,
didn't.
but I mean, when she was standing normal, it looked normal. But the minute she would raise her arms and do, her little dance number, the dress went up with her, and we just laughed.
You saw her money box.
We laughed.
Well, Peter Lovello, that's an Italian name, is it?
But only on my mother and father's side.
You can speak Italian?
Badly.
Uno, due, tre, or quattro. Now, the Hollywood Times wants me to ask you 20 questions, but
Sure, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if it will still record when I pull up the 20 questions on my phone, because I didn't have time to print them out. Let's have a look.
Clever girl, funny.
Well, it's let's see if it's still going. Does it stop when I...
Didn't stop. It's still going.
No, it stops though when you do it like that.
Yeah, but when you do it like that, but when you go back to the big screen, it's still going.
Are you sure?
Well, how about this? Why don't you send me the questions and you can look at them on my phone?
Oh, I'll put it on pause. Okay. That's a good idea.
Do you have my number still?
Yes, I'll just do that. 20 questions. There we are. And it's still going now. So what we're going to do is ask Peter, which he's going to have on his phone, and I'll read them out to you.
Okay.
And you can, they're just fun. The 20 questions,
There it is.
Well, this is what you wanted, Tom. So Tom said 20 questions, and that you got to first thing that comes into your head.
You got it. I'll try and be good.
Okay. What is your dream vacation?
Dublin.
What is your favorite food?
Probably Haagen-Dazs vanilla chocolate chip ice cream.
Is that a particular category, like Thai or?
No, it's just that
That's your favorite food?
I'm a vanilla kind of person, so I like the vanilla, but the chocolate chips I know.
I don't think you'd be vanilla in bed, would you? Missionary position, not. Anyway, cut that bit out, everybody. What is your favourite candy?
Well, I don't really enjoy a lot of candy. Contrary to what I look like, but if I had to, it would be Mrs. C's dark chocolate Scotch Mallow.
You look fine, by the way. Well, it's got this one. What is your favourite dessert? But you've already said that, haven't you?
Kind of.
What is your favourite soda flavour?
Oh, soda. Again, when I do drink soda, I really like root beer. I prefer Barks, but it's very hard to find, so any root beer, really.
You know what root means in Australia?
Isn't that the part of the tree in the bottom?
No, when you say,
root?
let's go and have a root.
Oh.
That means, let's go and have sex.
Oh, see, I'm learning
sex beer.
all these foreign
Well, it's
things
true.
I'm learning.
Well, you know the word fanny in Australia.
Fanny?
Fanny means a woman's vagina, not,
Oh, really?
not your fanny bum.
Oh,
If you
okay.
said, "Oh, you've got a nice fanny," to a woman, you get a slap in the face because you're talking about her vagina. Anyway, that's just a bit of trivia for the viewers at home. What is your favourite thing to do in your spare time?
Read.
What is your favourite hymn or church song? None.
What is my favorite what?
That's a weird one. What is your favourite hymn or church song?
Hymn or church song? No, believe it or not, I really don't have a favorite.
Amazing Grace or something?
No, but I do love the chorale stuff, so probably Handel's Messiah.
That's a good one, yes.
I mean, I don't really have like a gospel-y or one of those things.
That's a good answer. What is your favourite singer or group?
Oh, God, I'm not a music person at all.
Barbara Streisand?
No. My favorite singer or group.
Just sing
Let's
it.
come back to that because I don't really do music.
Oh, you sound somebody. You're not a Libran, are you?
No, God, no.
What are you?
I'm Taurus.
Oh, a Taurus. They're very sensual Tauruses, I believe.
Yes, Libras are unbalanced.
No, we're not. That's why we have the scales.
You're
We're
unbalanced.
equilibrium.
Yeah.
We have homeostasis.
Yeah.
Homosexuals. is
When you're
homeostasis.
sleeping, the rest of the time you're unbalanced.
What is your worst fear?
Needles. I cannot stand needles.
Oh my God. Who do you like?
Who do I like about
I
what?
don't know. Just as who do you like? Who do you like? Me. Myself. I don't know. That's a
I mean, are we going
Who says, who do you like? Like,
Are we going fantasy here? It would be Henry Cavill.
oh, okay, good. Talk about your worst scar.
Scar?
Yeah.
I don't. Oh, I do have a scar now. I have a scar from the base of my skull down my spine because I had spinal surgery.
Ooh.
But I don't see it, so I never think about it.
If you were a Disney character, who would you be?
If I was a Disney character, who would I be?
That's weird. That's a fun.
Well, I'm gonna just go off the cuff and be funny and say Tinkerbell.
That'd be. I can see that.
Well, of course you could.
How do you? So, how many times have you moved in your life?
Connecticut to California, California to Florida, Florida to Wisconsin, Wisconsin to Georgia, 4 times.
Wow, I think I've moved much more than that. What is something spectacular you have done? Oh, we've already heard all that tonight. What can you tell us that no one else knows about you? Ooh.
What can you tell?
I'm circumcised.
Now everybody knows that's not true. What can I tell you that nobody else knows about me? I don't really. I mean,
Ooh, you have to think about that one.
well, my life's an open book, so pretty much everybody knows everything about me.
There's not one thing that's a secret? Ooh. But you're not going to tell us anyway because it wouldn't be a secret.
Well, yeah, it
anymore.
wouldn't be a secret. I have secretly paid for things without people knowing. Does that count?
Maybe, yes. That's good. Indoors or outdoors? Are you more of an indoors or outdoors person?
I have to say it's 50-50 because it depends on the outdoors.
What do you want to be when you grow up? I'll never grow up.
I actually would really. I just would love to be healthy. Like healthier.
Healthy now?
Well, healthier. I don't want to grow old and get worse. I would like to stay healthy or be healthier.
Oh, okay. What is your? Are you soup or salad? More of a soup or more of a salad?
Well, I only like pasta fagioli, so I'm gonna go with soup.
Okay. What is your favorite animal?
Well, see, there's 2 because there's one that doesn't exist anymore, dragons, and then I guess bears would be my favorite.
Sorry.
Bears or wolves. Let's go with wolves. I'm gonna go with
No, I
wolves.
thought bears were great.
No, I'm gonna go with wolves. Wolves are my favorite animal. Hey, now, different bear.
Suggest you subscribe to this channel for the next Hollywood Times Live.